Okay, let's dig into this stack of material you've pulled together for us. It's all pointing towards, well, Muay Thai, the art of 8 limbs, right?
That's the one. And it's quite a story these sources piece together.
So our mission here is to kind of journey through that story, the history, the culture, how it all evolved.
Exactly. We'll pull out the key bits from all this research, give you a clear picture.
From those really ancient roots right up to, well, today, where it's this global thing. Basically, this is your fast track to getting up to speed on Muay Thai.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, looking through this, is how it started as pure self-defense, battlefield stuff,
Right.
and then somehow transformed over centuries, adapted, went global, but still held on to so much of its core, its culture.
It's pretty amazing. So where do the sources say it all kicked off? The beginning.
Okay, so the origins,
Mm-hmm.
they go way back, like potentially 2560 BCE, according to some of this material.
Wow, BCE.
Yeah, in Siam, which is now Thailand, obviously. And it wasn't born as a sport. It came from something called Muay Boran,
Muay Boran.
an older martial art, developed purely for hand-to-hand combat. Survival, basically.
Yeah.
Against invaders. Constant conflict back then.
Makes sense. Survival first.
Totally. And the early name wasn't even Muay Thai. It was Sangha Muay. The name Muay Thai only really started sticking around 1774, much later.
Sangam Way. Okay. And you said battlefield necessity?
Right? Yeah.
So I'm guessing the early days were pretty rough.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly raw. The sources are clear. Basically no rules. None.
No rules at all. What did that look like? How did they fight?
Anything goes. Fists, elbows, knees, feet, whatever worked.
And defense.
Just get out of the way. Evasion. Maybe catch a limb if you could. Shielding yourself somehow. Not exactly sophisticated defense.
Sounds brutal. So how did a fight even end?
Simple. Someone gets knocked out cold. Or, a referee, if there was one involved, steps in because one guy clearly just can't continue.
No rounds, no timers.
Nope. No timed rounds. And no weight classes either. So you got huge mismatches all the time.
That sounds dangerous.
Definitely. The sources mentioned sometimes they'd have these sort of qualifying matches under Muay Boran rules before a big purse fight, maybe just to get a sense of skill levels.
A rough filter, maybe.
Yeah. But even then, the main fights could be incredibly uneven. It wasn't about fair competition like we think of it now.
Right. And you mentioned warfare being the starting point. How did that link continue as it developed?
It stayed really closely tied to the military for a long time. Kings, like Prakau Sua and later the Chakri dynasty rulers, they weren't just watching.
No.
They actively encouraged it, even participated sometimes. Initially, it was just part of military training, conditioning for soldiers.
Makes perfect sense.
But then as popularity spread, beyond the army, especially by the 1860s when there was more British influence in Bangkok, that's when rules started to come in more formally.
For safety or other reasons.
Bit of both, probably. Safety is a factor, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also betting. Gambling became properly accepted, formalized.
Oh, the money angle.
Always. The sources use this phrase. They say the industry became fully mechanicalized.
Fully mechanicalized. That's
Yeah.
stark. What does that suggest?
It suggests it wasn't just casual anymore, right? Betting brings structure. Promoters, organized events, maybe rudimentary arenas, a system. It was becoming a business, basically, setting the stage for the sport.
Okay, that's a huge shift from pure survival to mechanicalized spectacle. Let's trace that development. The sources break it down by periods, right? Starting with Sukhothai.
Yeah, Sukhothai. What's interesting here is the kings were really hands-on, training people, teaching the art, even fighting in public bouts called samak.
The kings themselves fought.
Apparently so, according to this. It was a time when Muay Boran, the full ancient system, really flourished. But the samak fights, the early Muay Thai that emerged, it seems it was maybe a more limited set of techniques from Boran.
So already becoming more like a sport, less like pure combat.
Possibly, yeah. More for public display, maybe? King Naresuan the Great is mentioned too, and how after a big victory of his, local wrestling and fighting became a real tradition.
The seeds of organized events were definitely there. What about the next period, Ayutthaya?
Ayutthaya built massively on that. The fighting art really blossomed. Kings were like keepers of the history, fought weekly sometimes, even dueled rival teachers.
Wow.
And this era saw some unusual stuff too, like beast fighting, elephants.
Fighting elephants? Seriously?
Seriously. And get this, one source mentions a decree by King Naresuan about chestnut fighting.
Chestnut fighter.
Yeah. And apparently that somehow led to the first theoretical book about fighting principles.
You're kidding. Martial arts theory inspired by chestnuts? That really shows how ingrained this thinking was.
Doesn't it? Applying combat principles everywhere. And those ideas about safe fighting, they later got codified into 50 rules in the next period. Ayutthaya also had King Taksin, who, during wartime, actually codified Muay Thai alongside military strategy. Survival again.
High stakes.
Very. And the rules had teeth. Cheating in a fight. The punishment mentioned is losing both ears.
Ouch. Definitely sends a message about honor.
Absolutely. This wasn't just a game. And during Ayutthaya, Muay Thai spread out from the nobles to, regular people. Different styles popped up. Yan, Nam, Hen. You see masters emerging, dramas using it, amulets for fighters, proper boxing rings.
So it became part of the whole culture.
Totally integrated. Kings and nobles were still patrons, mind you. And then knowledge was deep dueling training included stuff for fighting on elephants, horses, boats, legends of famous fighters passed down. It was everywhere.
Incredible depth. Okay, that leads us to the Ratanakosin period. King Rama V's era seems key, based on the sources.
Yeah, that's often called the birth of Thai boxing, as we sort of recognize it, a sport, national heritage. Martial arts were huge entertainment.
And Rama V was a fan.
Big enthusiast.
Yeah.
But also concerned, worried about the gambling getting out of hand, and, well, people getting seriously hurt or killed in fights.
So he stepped in to regulate.
You could say that.
Yeah.
The sources say he kind of sealed the link between boxing and the state. He wasn't just okaying matches, he'd preside over them, act as the judge, review decisions.
Wow, the king as the final referee.
Pretty much. The government used matches for public events, celebrations. Later, King Rama VII also officiated. That gave it enormous prestige. The sources talk about the majesty and grandeur of the arenas.
That royal stamp of approval must have cemented its place. Okay, let's jump forward. The 20th century, big changes.
Huge changes. This is where it really transitions from the more traditional forms into a structured professional sport aiming for the world stage. Old techniques got refined or sometimes replaced.
Replaced. Why?
Partly for the ring, Techniques better suited for competition rather than, say, the battlefield or street.
Right. So what kind of technical shifts are we talking about?
While building on Muay and Boran, the sources highlight elbows and knees becoming really central, devastating weapons. Shin blocks became standard defense against those powerful round kicks.
Ah, the signature kick.
Exactly. Sweeps, clinching techniques that got developed, honed. Specific deadly moves are mentioned too, like the rising elbow, something called the double eight, and kud, a nasty knee-elbow combo.
That's the art of 8 limbs, really finding its strategic application in the ring.
Absolutely, using every weapon. But injury reduction was also a big driver for change. Gloves, for instance. Big step.
Boxing gloves.
Yeah. And interestingly, that influenced the style too. Thai fighters started looking at Western boxing, picking up things. Better footwork, more angles, diversifying kicks, quarters, turns, kicking into a knee strike.
So absorbing influences.
Definitely. By the 70s, you had that dynamic mix you see today. Even video tech, since the 2000s, has sped up analysis and adaptation.
And the rules themselves were getting formalized around this time too.
Yeah, attempts were made early on. The sources mention newspaper announcements for rules in 1923, 1925, 1926.
Smooth process.
Not at all. Apparently, it was full of disagreements. Promoters, fighters, officials, all arguing.
About what?
The core tension, it seems, was keeping the excitement, the spectacle that drew crowds and money.
While making it safer.
Exactly. And respecting the old ways, too. It was a balancing act.
Huh.
The first really official regulations came in 1949, then important updates in 1988. That really shaped the modern sport.
What did those 1949 rules lock down?
The structure we know. 5 timed rounds, 2 minutes each. Banned headbutts, certain throws targeting the head or neck. Set arena specs. Defined the ref's duties, stopping fights, knockouts, disqualifications.
The basic framework. And that led to professional competitions.
Directly. First bout under Western-style rules was 1921, apparently. First dedicated ring built that year, too, though temporary. The Muay Thai Association eventually became the Thai Boxing Association, fully adopting Western rules.
Interesting.
And a little detail the sources mention. They brought in black trunks for fighters with 30-plus bouts, a mark of experience.
A veteran's badge.
Kind of. By the 50s, the association was a professional setup. Big competitions, lots of betting, especially down south.
Okay, so the sports side is established, but you said earlier it's more than a sport. Let's talk culture. The sources really stress this.
They absolutely do. It's fundamental to Thai society. That phrase, art of 8 limbs, it's not just about the strikes. It captures how deep it runs culturally. Even with professionalization, it kept traditions alive. The White Crew is the most obvious one.
The pre-fight ritual dance. What's its significance, according to these materials?
It's seen as incredibly important for preserving ancient customs, beliefs, social structures. things maybe even older than written records. It's a living connection to the past.
Wow.
A way cultural identity gets passed down, along with the master-student relationship, which is crucial for knowledge transfer. And at its heart, it's about respect, gratitude to your teachers, to the art itself.
So much more than just warming up or showing off. It's symbolic. How does Muay Thai connect to Thai national identity more broadly?
The sources describe its influence as massive on many levels. Historically, yes, self-defense, independence. Economically, sure, but the social impact, huge. Personal pride, national identity, shaping behavior, cultural touchstone.
Like other national sports.
Exactly. It brings international attention, national pride. The sources even link victory in boxing to national victory in conflict, both seen as major boosts to morale and pride.
That's a powerful connection. What about its role day-to-day in Thai society?
It's described as national heritage, used by warriors back in the 18th century against the Burmese, but also a pastime for everyone, all classes, fought in temples, homes, markets, even shown off at banquets for foreign dignitaries.
It's cultural export even then.
Definitely. The Wai Crew dance, the traditional music, Sarma, they're seen as efficient symbols of Thai culture, even carrying Buddhist influences. And the music isn't just background noise.
No.
The sources say it's like a traditional teaching method. It conveys the essence, the uniqueness of Thai culture through rhythm and sound.
That's fascinating. Music is cultural transmission.
It really is. And even the modern rules, like banning fouls, help position it as a civilized sport with etiquette, balancing its fierce roots. It preserves tradition through modernization. Beyond fighting, it's huge for health, fitness, youth activities, builds discipline, responsibility. The sources call it a convener of people, brings everyone together.
Okay, let's shift to the training itself. Nang Muay is the term used.
Yeah, for Muay Thai boxing practice, training methods changed over time. Borrowed from Western boxing early on, then kind of settled back into traditional methods that just worked better for Muay Thai.
What's a typical training day like based on this?
Varies between gyms, of course,
Fact.
but often starts super early. Shadow boxing, stretching, lots of bag work, pad drills with a trainer, intense conditioning.
Specific gear?
Yeah, heavy bags at different heights, maybe ankle weights. Depends on the trainer. Competitive fighters usually train twice a day leading up to an event.
Intense.
Very. Some gyms apparently use a lot of rote training. Everyone does the same thing. Newer fighters focus heavily on technique on pads before they do a lot of actual sparring.
Makes sense. Build the foundation first. And the techniques themselves, the 8 limbs, how do the sources break those down?
Often into 7 core stages for learning. Covers all 8 points. Chuck, the straight punch. Sock, elbows. T kicks, especially the round kick. Kalen, knees. Tep, a specific elbow smash. Yoke, uppercut. And plam, using the palm for blocks, locks, even strikes.
So those are the building blocks.
Right. Master those, then combine them into complex chains, advanced moves. The sources even mention crazy sparring like 1 fighter against 3.
Wow, that really tests you. And the music, Surma, it's not just for the fights.
No, it's crucial in training too. Most gyms use it. 2 main parts. The ply wind instruments, oboe-like things, clarinets, they set the beat. Fast, medium, slow tempos for different drills.
Controlling the pace.
Exactly. It's described as almost hypnotic. Helps manage anxiety, find rhythm. The Nang string instrument's less common in daily training, more for ceremonies like the Wai Crew.
So the music is functional and cultural.
Totally. The sources list its functions. Sonic ubiquity, it's always there. Increases visibility, awareness globally, which helps financially. Defines the sport internationally, gives it that unique feel. Its significance is seen as equal to any other part of Muay Thai.
Okay, so how did this art, so deeply Thai, spread globally? Was it accidental or planned?
More planned, it seems. Efforts by groups like the Muay Thai Foundation, people like Thawi Nan, promoting it through events, demos, pushing for TV coverage.
Like that first U.S. pro event.
Yeah, Los Angeles, 1989, that's flagged as a big moment. Brought top fighters, trainers, got a lot of attention.
What really drove the international interest, though?
Several things, according to the sources. General interest in martial arts was rising anyway. Media started portraying Muay Thai as really exciting to watch. And non-Thais getting involved, promoters, fighters, trainers, that was key.
Especially in the U.S.
Yeah, U.S. interest grew, led to bigger events. TV coverage went from regional to national. Movies featuring Muay Thai helped too, showing the techniques and a bit of Thai culture.
And international competition started early, too.
Yeah, Paris 1981, the first global one, over 20 countries. That pushed development and rule standardization overseas. And that 1982 fight, Joe Pound versus Yathongtha, really put it on the map internationally, sparked that whole Muay Thai versus boxing debate.
The U.S. seems central to its spread in the West.
It does. The U.S. Muay Thai Federation, founded in '91, was active, recruiting coaches, sending fighters abroad. Big win in France in '91. They even started adding wrestling techniques by the early '90s, adapting to Western full-contact scenes.
Wrestling. Interesting adaptation.
Yeah. Televised comps started around '94. A U.S. team win in '94 apparently led to a real boom over there.
But the sources seem to have a slightly mixed view on how smoothly it all went in the West.
They do offer different perspectives, yeah. Some suggest the initial buzz, say in Holland or the U.S., was partly because the first Thais sent over were maybe not the absolute elite, but incredibly well-schooled. They understood the biomechanics better, could outfox Westerners under new rules. That created curiosity. Well, as Westerners trained specifically for it, and maybe when more top-tier Thais came over, that initial wow factor might have lessened for some.
The gap closed a bit.
Maybe. And some sources argue that Muay Thai techniques got absorbed into kickboxing, which really took off in the U.S., and that maybe the pure essence got a bit watered down by kickboxing organizations.
Watered down. That's a strong take.
It is.
Yeah.
Some sources even controversially suggest Muay Thai barely survived in the West and is past its golden age of that raw, traditional dominance internationally.
Past its golden age. But other sources talk about a renaissance now, right?
Exactly. It's complex. Some might feel a certain purity is gone, but others argue it has a bigger profile now than ever. Promotions focus on fighter stories, big matchups. It headlines events in the West. Fights happen at Muay Thai weight.
So it's professionalizing and globalizing differently.
Totally. Huge online fan base, multi-billion-dollar industry, sponsors, influencers. Massive. And Thailand itself is adapting to this. There are concerns, sure. Authenticity versus degradation. Quality dropping in some regions due to migration or costs.
The big question, is it still Muay Thai?
The answer given here is an extremely fortunate yes.
Yeah.
Largely because it's always been open to adaptation. And media now lets Thai see everything. Ex-fighters adapting overseas, new techniques emerging everywhere.
Media's playing a huge role then. What are the current trends the sources highlight?
Big growth in amateur competitions, supply and demand. Promotion isn't just about the fighter now. It's the gym, the instructor getting showcased too.
Why are people getting into amateur fights?
All sorts of reasons. Prize money, getting noticed, the challenge. Just fun, fitness. Entry levels are getting more defined. Age, skill, weight. Rules can differ too. Kids might use traditional rules. Female fighters sometimes start with rules closer to amateur boxing. Adults use modern pro rules.
And where are these fights happening? Still stadiums?
Sometimes, but also weird places. Music festivals, tourist spots, TV studios, even motorsports tracks. And watching is different, PPV, streaming, alongside local events. Amateur stuff online can be confusing though. Rules and quality vary a lot.
What about safety in amateur leagues, like in the U.S.?
Yeah, U.S. trends often include 10 counts, sometimes different music, 4 2-minute rounds, extra recovery time after knockdowns. Safety's big, so usually no groin strikes, often limits on elbows or knees to the head, throws, spitting back fists at lower levels, though controlled versions are creeping into training more.
Any other trends jumping out?
Bolder fight gear, lots of tattoos. Fighters and trainers are all over social media, fight recaps, training clips, building their brands. It's getting more glamorized.
Yeah.
And you're seeing more fighter personalities emerge, especially women, who are historically way less visible.
It really sounds like it's navigating tradition, safety, commerce, media, constantly evolving. How did this spread impact other martial arts?
Well, when North American fighters came back from Thailand with these skills, people noticed in gyms. At first, techniques just got mixed into kickboxing classes.
But it wasn't just kickboxing with elbows.
Exactly. People realized pretty quickly Muay Thai was its own complete system. So dedicated Muay Thai classes started popping up. Communities formed, like the North American Muay Thai Association in '87.
Was the knowledge transfer smooth?
Not always perfect. The sources mentioned quality varied. Some instructors were highly proficient, others less so. So some incorrect stuff got spread around too. But the overall influence from the mid-'80s was huge. A fire of adulation, one source calls it.
The fire of adulation. Nice phrase.
Yeah. And places like Canada made efforts to preserve it properly, promote fights to pass on good knowledge. Thais even awarded the crew title teacher, the highest honor to some non-Thais for their dedication.
That's significant recognition. Before we finish, that legend, Nikon Tom, it really illustrates the art, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, the classic story. Thai general, captured by the Burmese, 16th century. Forced to fight, 10 Burmese boxers.
10. All at once.
One after another, supposedly. And the legend says he used devastating hand and knee combos, pure art of 8 limbs,
Okay.
and just took them all down, bang, bang, bang.
Impressive.
So impressive, the enemy commander freed him. It's become this symbol of Muay Thai's effectiveness, its versatility.
A powerful anecdote.
And the sources make a point to say, even with all this modernization, globalization, core traditions like the Wai Kru, the chanting, Nai Man, the basic rule code, Rit Chai, they're still there, still maintained. They're vital for keeping that authenticity alive as it keeps changing.
So wrapping this up, looking at all this material, it's clear Muay Thai is so much more than just fighting, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's living history, living culture. It travels from battlefields through royal courts, gambling rings. Now it's on global streams and social media. An incredible journey.
And we've seen how those traditions, the unique 8-limb techniques, that deep connection to Thai identity, how they've somehow managed to persist through massive change, adapting but enduring.
It's constantly negotiating that balance, isn't it, between its roots and the modern world.
Well, hopefully this deep dive, drawing on everything you shared, has given you, the listener, a much richer picture, maybe uncovered a few surprises about this amazing art.
Yeah, and maybe leaves you with something to think about. As Muay Thai keeps evolving globally, new rules, new platforms, new pressures, how will that constant adaptation keep shaping what it fundamentally is? What will its legacy look like down the road?